I'm home. The lunch was delicious today, as always. Thank you.
As usual, my husband, who had just returned home, placed the tote bag with the lunchbox on the kitchen counter. Welcome back. Dinner will be ready soon, so go ahead and take a bath first.
Okay.
It was our usual routine. From the tote bag on the counter, I pulled out the square lunchbox. It was empty, neatly eaten. As someone who wakes up at 5 a.m. to make lunch, seeing an empty lunchbox always makes me happy. I smiled to myself, and without thinking much of it, I washed the lunchbox and then finished preparing dinner. Yes, at that moment, I had completely forgotten. I had forgotten that the lunch I had packed for my husband that day was chicken soup. Wait, wasn't it soup yesterday? The next day, while eating the tomato soup my mother had made for lunch, I suddenly remembered. My husband has 2 lunchboxes, a square one and a lunch jar for soup. I had used the soup jar, but the lunchbox that came back was the square one. Last night, I washed the lunchbox but didn't put it back in the cupboard. This morning, I packed a sandwich in it and handed it to him. I started to feel a bad premonition. I contacted someone and asked them to check on my husband. The result left me speechless, as his actions were far beyond anything I could have imagined. My name is Mary Brown, and I'm 30 years old. I used to work at a bank, but after getting married, I started working as an office clerk at my father's company. I met my husband Simon, who is 3 years older than me, through a mutual friend couple, and we got married 2 years ago. Simon, who was looking for a partner at the time, was invited to join us at a gathering organized by our friends. My first impression of him was that he was a tall, handsome man who looked great in a suit.
I work in sales at Jones Company, near the station.
Oh, the Jones Company? That's the company everyone in town admires. Is your job tough?
Well, it's definitely busy, but honestly, it's more challenging because the company is family-run.
Oh, I see, I said, smiling wryly, understanding the situation. My own father runs a company where my mother and younger brother also work, so I could relate to what he was saying.
The president and his wife are at the top, and the managing director is the president's brother. Recently, their son joined the company in sales. So, it's not easy to complain about things within the company.
Jones Company is a company that deals in wholesale food and alcoholic beverages, with about 30 employees. It's relatively well-known locally, with a reputation for paying well, especially for a small-town business. Many people wanted to work there, but because the employees rarely left, it was difficult to get hired. In that sense, it was a well-regarded company.
So, what do you do for work, Mary?
Before I could answer, our friend jumped in enthusiastically.
Mary works at the bank closest to Simon's company. You two might have already met somewhere.
Simon looked at me in surprise. Our friend might have been trying to create the impression of a fated encounter. But unfortunately, I worked at a less-known bank in the area, and although Jones' company wasn't too far away, it was still a 10-minute drive.
Well, how about we grab dinner sometime after work? I could use someone to listen to my complaints.
Sure. I'd be happy to. And that's how my relationship with my husband began. As a salesperson, Simon was not only good at his job but also very considerate. He always took me to great restaurants and gave me thoughtful gifts on special occasions. My friends were envious. When we got married, I left my job at the bank and started working at my father's company, which was struggling with a shortage of staff. My mother, who had been handling all the office work, had also been unwell.
Mary, I'm sorry. You had to quit the bank because of me.
Don't worry about it. My salary isn't that different from what I made at the bank, and I can go home on time. Plus, I get to enjoy delicious lunches here, so it's all good. Indeed, working at my father's company had many benefits. I didn't have to worry about what to wear because there was a uniform, and I didn't need to do much makeup. The job also allowed for flexibility, so I could manage things at home efficiently. Right now, I'm doing everything I can to save money and avoid unnecessary expenses. This is because our household is dealing with a certain issue. We started our newlywed life in an old 2-story apartment. We didn't want to spend too much money on a place where we wouldn't be home during the day since we both worked. We also wanted to save as much money as possible before having children. One of the issues in our marriage is that my in-laws don't think very highly of me.
My parents are country folks, so they're jealous because they think your family is wealthy. They probably misunderstood us not having a wedding as us looking down on them.
And wasn't it your responsibility to explain that properly? If you had, maybe things wouldn't have turned out this way. Simon was silent. We didn't have a wedding ceremony. We explained to Simon's parents that we wanted to save money for our life together after marriage, but they were against it, believing that money should be spent on celebrations. So instead, we had a small family gathering with relatives from both sides. I thought this would satisfy Simon's parents, but
They've convinced themselves that you didn't want to establish a real family connection with them. But I'm sure they'll change once we have children.
yeah, I guess we can only hope for that. When I first visited Simon's family or when our families met, they never said anything directly unpleasant to me. Sure, they seemed disappointed when we said we weren't having a wedding ceremony, but that was all. However, hearing what Simon's parents said behind my back made me feel like their true feelings were being revealed when I wasn't around. They apparently said things like, "What a stingy family, not spending money on celebrations," or "She's so stuck up and unpleasant," criticizing me and my parents.
Until we have kids, you don't need to deal with my family. They said they don't want to see you, anyway.
He insisted that he would handle things and didn't allow me to contact or visit his parents. Hey, why don't we go and greet them this New Year's Day? I really want to clear up any misunderstandings and get along with them.
Let's wait until we have kids. They've said not to come, and I don't want you to start the new year feeling bad.
Since Simon's parents lived in the neighboring city, I never accidentally ran into them after we got married. Some of my friends said, "That must be so easy for you," but I couldn't help feeling sad that I couldn't get along with my in-laws. And there was another issue in our household that caused me even more headaches. In some ways, this problem might be even more troublesome.
Mary, I need to ask you something.
My husband, who had just gotten out of the bath, said hesitantly. "Oh no, not again." "What is it?" "Don't tell me you've already run out of your allowance? You've used up $800 halfway through the month?" While everyone envied me for having a handsome husband, he had a significant flaw.
Yeah, sorry. Tomorrow, I'm going out for drinks with the sales team, but I'm running low on cash. Please, just $100.
Simon was terrible at managing money. He always prioritized the moment's vibe over everything else.
I found a really cool outfit the other day and bought it, and last week, I treated my colleagues to drinks, so now I'm in a pinch.
What? You bought clothes? And treated them?
Sorry, I just couldn't resist and secretly bought it. But it's super cool. and I couldn't help paying for the drinks. I'm their senior. It would have been embarrassing if I couldn't treat them.
Seriously. That's something you do when you can afford it. If you keep throwing money around just to look good, your debt will never go down. My husband loves fashion and can't resist buying something he wants. On top of that, he's a bit of a show-off and uses spending money as a way to relieve stress. As a result, I can't completely tighten the purse strings, and every month, I end up giving him extra allowance. When we got married, Simon had credit card debt and a car loan for the car he had just bought, with monthly repayments exceeding $1,500. He also loved drinking and went out several times a week, living a lifestyle that consumed his entire paycheck. So, of course, he had no savings. I discovered all this when we were discussing our future life together after we got engaged.
It'll be fine. I've managed so far, and I'll keep managing.
Simon said optimistically. His words made me prioritize paying off his debt over having a wedding ceremony. Simon wanted a wedding ceremony, but I could easily imagine him splurging on unnecessary things just to show off, leading to more wasted money. After some persuasion, Simon finally agreed.
Okay, I'll give up on the wedding ceremony. But please, don't tell my parents about my debt.
And that's how we settled the matter. Looking back, I probably should have reconsidered getting married at that point. But at the time, I thought, I need to do something to help him. And I was head over heels in love with him. They say love is blind, and it couldn't be truer. It's been 2 years since then. Driven by a sense of duty to repay the debt, I've been living a frugal lifestyle all this time. I've only bought the cheapest clothes and personal items, avoided eating out, and made efforts to make our meals at home as enjoyable as possible. I've also been waking up at 5 a.m. every morning to prepare lunch and take care of household chores.
Hey, about my allowance. Since I always go over it anyway, why not just set it to $1,200 from the start?
Sometimes, I still get irritated by my husband's short-sighted attitude. Well, let's talk about that once you've managed to stick to a $1,000 allowance. I couldn't afford to let my guard down. Now that 2 years have passed since we got married, the debt has been reduced by half. We've even started to save a little for the new family member we hope to welcome someday. We've been living off my salary, while all of Simon's income, minus his allowance and a bit for savings, has gone toward early debt repayment. Other than the car loan, we should be able to pay off the rest within a year. Once the debt is cleared and we have a child, our problems will be solved. I truly believed that. But little did I know that a betrayal awaited us just around the corner. In this frugal lifestyle, there was one thing I insisted on buying, a lunchbox for my husband. It was a clean and neat square lunchbox, along with a thermal lunch jar for soup. Depending on the day's main dish, I would switch between the two. Today, it's your favorite tomato chili soup.
Awesome. Mary, your chili is so good. Buying this lunchbox was definitely the right choice. It keeps everything warm, and it's the best.
Although the thermal lunch jar was great on its own, sometimes the square lunchbox was more convenient for packing certain dishes. Since I was asking him to give up eating out, I wanted to make sure he had something he enjoyed for lunch. Lately, we'd been talking more about having children, and I was feeling like we were living a modest but happy life. That was until the day when my husband brought that back home.
I'm home. The lunch was delicious again today. Thank you.
As usual, my husband placed the tote bag with the lunchbox on the kitchen counter when he returned home. Welcome back. Dinner will be ready soon, so why don't you take a bath first?
Okay.
It was our usual routine. I pulled out the square lunchbox from the tote bag on the counter. Everything was eaten clean. As someone who wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning to prepare lunch, seeing an empty lunchbox always makes me happy. I smiled to myself and, without giving it much thought, washed the lunchbox and then finished preparing dinner. Yes, at that moment, I had completely forgotten. I had forgotten that the lunch I packed for my husband that day was chicken soup. Wait a minute. Yesterday was definitely soup, wasn't it? The next day, while eating the tomato soup my mother had made for lunch, the thought suddenly struck me. I had used the soup jar, but the square lunchbox was the one that came back. I hadn't returned the washed lunchbox to the cupboard the previous night, and in the morning, I packed a sandwich in it and handed it to him. I started to feel a bad premonition. When I got home, I checked the cupboard where the lunchboxes were kept, and it was empty. What could this situation possibly mean? As I pondered this while preparing dinner, my husband returned home.
I'm home. Thanks for the lunch again today. Is the bath ready?
Oh. Sorry, I got distracted and forgot to clean it. Just give me a moment. I had been so preoccupied with how to ask him about the lunchbox that I completely forgot about the bath. When I quickly finished cleaning and returned, I found my husband drinking tea while watching TV. Inside the tote bag my husband had placed on the counter was the square lunchbox. Feeling a sense of unease, I quietly opened the cupboard without my husband noticing. And there it was. The soup jar had been returned. Something's off. There's definitely something going on. While my husband was in the bath, I decided to call someone for help. I also decided to do some investigating on my own. That night, I waited for my husband to fall asleep and decided to take a look at his phone. He kept a notebook with his passwords and IDs in the drawer of his desk. The fact that he hadn't changed the hiding spot made me wonder if he had nothing to hide, or if he was seriously underestimating me. When I opened his phone and checked his social media, I saw that he was frequently in contact with someone named S. As I read through the messages, I felt a wave of anger heat up my body.
Thanks for the lunch again today. Your lunches are really delicious. It feels like we're newlyweds.
Wow, I'm so happy. I can't wait to become your real wife someday. When we get married, I won't cut your allowance for making lunches.
S, you're so cute. The ring I gave you looks great on you. I really wish I'd met you before I met her.
Just reading the messages, full of heart emojis, made me feel sick to my stomach. I was shocked that there was a woman who would knowingly prepare lunches for a married man. As I scrolled further back, I came across the messages from that day.
Simon, I'm so sorry. I wasn't able to pick up the lunchbox today. Was everything okay?
No worries. That's why I had to use the same lunchbox. It was supposed to be the soup jar, but she didn't even notice and just washed it.
So that's why I hadn't noticed the switch in the lunchbox. I couldn't help but be impressed by how prepared they were, even going so far as to have the same lunchbox. But when I read S's next message, I felt as if my heart had stopped.
Your wife is really clueless, isn't she? It's lucky for us, though, she doesn't even notice when we stay over. Make sure to give me lots of love again.
Stay over? The realization of his affair hit me like a ton of bricks, and my hands began to tremble. There were even pictures of the two of them, half naked and cozy together, likely taken during a trip. Curious, I scrolled further back through their messages and discovered that S had started making lunches for Simon about 6 months ago. It suddenly clicked. Around the same time last year, Simon had started staying over at his parents' house occasionally. So that's what it was all about. At first, I felt like my head was going to explode with anger, but as I continued to take screenshots and read more, my anger was gradually replaced by a sense of emptiness. It felt as if all the efforts of the past 2 years had been for nothing. Tears began to spill down my cheeks. I loved you. That's why I trusted you, I whispered, trying not to wake my sleeping husband as I sobbed quietly. Even though I felt like I had grown cold, deep inside, my heart was burning with rage. I couldn't forgive Simon for his betrayal. As I methodically sent screenshots of the messages to my own phone, I began to plot how I could drag him down to hell. For the next week, I acted as if nothing had happened, behaving as usual. I never imagined a day would come when smiling at my husband would feel so painful. Still, I couldn't help but wonder where the money for the trips and the ring had come from. I managed my husband's bank statements and credit cards, so how had he done it? A week later, I received a call from the person I had asked for help, and the anger that I thought I had kept under control flared up again. I immediately took the evidence provided by that person and visited my in-laws' house for the first time in 2 years. There, I exposed all of my husband's secrets and informed them of my intention to divorce him. There's no turning back now. The next day at lunchtime, I headed to Joan's company to confront my husband and his mistress. My husband's company had an office next to the warehouse, and I walked confidently through the main entrance with the reception desk. From the reception counter, I could see the entire office. It seemed that most of the employees had gone out for lunch, as only 2 people remained in the office. My husband was eating his lunch while chatting with the woman sitting across from him. Hello there. Thank you for always taking care of my husband. The moment my husband saw me at the reception desk, his face froze. I walked straight over to him and glanced at the lunchbox on his desk.
Hey! What are you doing here?
Oh. I thought I packed your favorite fried chicken today. But the contents seem different, even though the lunchbox is the same. What's going on? My husband hastily put the lid back on the lunchbox. The woman across from him stood up, her face tense, and shouted,
Who are you? You can't just come in here uninvited. Please leave.
I peered into the woman's lunchbox. The contents matched my husband's. Are you S? Susan, right? Thank you so much for always making lunch for my husband.
What? How do you know her name?
I know everything. I know about your affair with her and how you've been throwing away the lunches I made for you. Simon's eyes widened, and despite it not being hot, sweat began to trickle down his forehead. Susan, clearly upset that I knew about the affair, started yelling.
He told me that your lunches were so bad he couldn't eat them, so I made them for him instead. And it's cruel that you've cut his allowance so he can't eat out.
Really? He always says my lunches are delicious and finishes every bite. I've been getting up early to make them so he could use his allowance for fun, but I guess I've been doing him a disservice.
No, that's not.
It's true. He said you're a spoiled brat who's terrible at housework, a lousy cook, and you cut his allowance so you can spend more on yourself. He's so miserable. You should just divorce him.
It was my first time meeting Susan, and I was a bit surprised. Honestly, I had expected her to be younger. But she didn't seem to be much younger than me. Oh, I see. You said you wanted to become his wife soon, right? Are you in a hurry to get married? Just so you know, if you marry him, you'll be stuck in debt and won't be able to have kids. Plus his family strangely dislikes me.
Wait, debt?
Hey! You should go home. You're causing a scene at the office. We can talk about this at home, okay?
My husband, drenched in sweat, desperately tried to push me out the door. Just then, a middle-aged woman peeked out from behind a partitioned area in the back.
Feel free to take your time and talk it out. It's lunchtime after all. Mary is like a daughter to me, and if needed, I'm willing to testify about what's been going on here.
Huh? Daughter? What's going on? I didn't know you two knew each other.
The person I had contacted for help was Kathy, the company president's wife. She had been my mother's best friend since their school days and often visited our home when I was little. When Simon and I started dating, I never got around to telling him about my connection with Kathy. Kathy had been discreetly observing the behavior of Simon and Susan at the office and had been keeping an eye on where the lunches I made were ending up. You've been throwing away the lunches I made in the office's break room trash every day. I have a video of it, which I've shown to your parents.
What? You showed my parents?
Yes, I went to your parents' house yesterday. I exposed all of your secrets. They were shocked to learn that you had been making me out to be the villain while secretly taking money from them. No wonder you didn't want me near your parents. During my visit to my in-laws, they also revealed something surprising. They had been led to believe that I, being from a wealthy family, looked down on them for being poor and didn't want to associate with them. They were also told that I was infertile and that the high cost of treatment was making life difficult. So they had been giving Simon $500 a month. Seems like you've been asking for extra pocket money too. So in total, you've had a $1,500 monthly allowance? And the new clothes you bought were stashed in your parents' closet.
Well, that's...
Turning to Susan, I asked, Susan, this is who he really is. Do you still want to marry him? I'm divorcing him, so if you want him, I'll happily hand him over with a ribbon on top.
No, thank you.
What? Why? Wait! Let's not rush into divorce. I was just playing around with her. I promise I'll do better from now on. Please, I'm sorry. I'll make it up to you.
Simon, now pale as a sheet, grabbed my shoulders and pleaded with me, bowing his head close to my face. It was painful, annoying, and infuriating. I shook off his hands and shouted, "Shut up. Just get a divorce and pay me the alimony. From now on, you can live alone with your debts."
Please, Mary. I can't live without you. How about this? We'll have a baby right away. I promise I won't waste any more money, and I'll be a great dad.
I was stunned that he was talking about having a child in this situation. Did he really think that would make me forgive him? I don't want to have a child with you anymore. Go live your life alone. And by the way, don't count on your parents for help anymore. Your dad was furious. He even said he wants the money he gave you back.
No way. I don't want a divorce. Please, forgive me, Mary. I'm begging you.
He collapsed to the floor and started crying pathetically.
Simon, this is what they call no use crying over spilled milk. Too bad.
Kathy caught my eye and gave me a sly smile. Trying to hold back my laughter, I nodded slightly to her and then quietly left the company. After that, the divorce with my husband was finalized smoothly, thanks to the cooperation of my former in-laws. I returned the bank accounts and credit cards with remaining debt, and I received the entire amount of the savings we had as shared property. My former father-in-law said,
"I'm truly sorry. If we hadn't taken his word for everything and had actually talked things through, the outcome might have been different."
"No, I should have been more decisive and contacted you sooner. The only regret I have is that I couldn't build a better relationship with my former in-laws." My former father-in-law paid the alimony in a lump sum and said he would also demand repayment of the money he had given my ex-husband. Perhaps out of regret for having spoiled him, my ex-husband was not allowed to live at his parents' house and is now living in an old, low-rent apartment. From now on, in addition to repaying his debt, he will have to bear living expenses that he didn't need to worry about before. At his company, they decided that someone with debts and involved in an office affair couldn't continue working in sales, so he was reassigned to shipping. Kathy told me that he is yelled at every day doing the unfamiliar physical labor in the warehouse. Although his salary has decreased, it's still not bad compared to other places, so he likely can't afford to quit the job due to his debts. I've heard that he no longer resembles the handsome man he once was and now looks more like a shabby old man. I wonder how much spending money my ex-husband has these days. As for his mistress, Susan, she apparently felt uncomfortable after Kathy found out about the affair, so she voluntarily resigned the next day and hasn't returned to work since. I also demanded alimony from Susan, which she promptly paid in a lump sum. I even received an apology letter from her through Kathy. In the letter, Susan wrote,
"After learning Simon's true nature, I'm scared that he might cling to me after the divorce. So I'm moving away."
No doubt about it. I moved back to my parents' house and have been saving money while using the frugality skills I've learned to manage the household. My ex-husband has reached out a few times asking to reconcile, but I've completely ignored him. After Kathy warned him, he finally quieted down. Since he can't afford to quit his job, it seems to have been the most effective approach. With the alimony I received from both of them, I'm planning a resort trip soon, inviting Kathy and my mother. My life is still ahead of me. I'm determined to live positively and move forward. How did you enjoy this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.